Do you remember tax discs? They were ubiquitous in the UK from the 1930s, and they were indicated you'd paid your tax. Same for cars, same for trucks, same for buses, and continued to operate in this country until, what, 5-6 years ago? During the years, down the years, the style of those discs has changed subtly. So every vehicle would have had, in 1965, would have had a disc looking like this, different colour for each year. So a bluey, greeny colour one year, a reddy colour the next, and so on all the way through, so that you could see at a distance how old the disc was. So this is a replica, obviously, appropriate to this vehicle, and you can see it has the date of expiry, December 65, repeated so that it's more difficult to counterfeit it, and then it's been issued to this vehicle, CCG 704C, which is showing here as a Bedford and historic, written on here just to be on the safe side, and so say issued on 7th of Jan 65, and that's your tax disc. Next to it is the I correct myself, not PCV, which is the current term, but PSV, Public Service Vehicle License, and this is specific to this coach. So this license has been issued to our Chisholm & Sons for CCG 704C, expiring on the 28th of April 1973, bit of poetic license there. It has room for the chassis number, it's not being filled in, and the lower deck, it would normally have the seating capacity on it. This disc next to it is just a FOCAB disc to tell people it's a 1965 Bedford VAL, and it belongs to the Friends of King Alfred buses. And that's your tax discs.
Two-seater, isn't it? So we had about. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Winchester's premier 10-minute bus ride. Have half a ticket. Have the rest of the ticket.
So this disc, what does it do?
Right, the disc records the time the vehicle is in use, and it records the distance it travels in two different ways, so that you can tell exactly how much time the driver has spent driving or doing other work other than driving, and also records the speed that the vehicle travels at. So it's a complete record of what the vehicle has done during the period that this disc is in there. And the disc is 24 hours. So you use one of these discs for each day that you drive. You then have to keep that disc, and the driver is required to have that disc with him for 42 days.
It became a legal requirement to record the driver's work patterns so that over too much work could be prevented and people getting too tired could be stopped. It was a requirement that buses and coaches and lorries and trucks should be fitted with a thing called a tachograph, which, just like the speedometer, shows the speed, but unlike the speedometer, records what's going on. It records the time and the speed of the vehicle, and it can record times when the driver is not driving but resting. And it's done by having this machine, which has simple opening mechanism, and it has room in it for 2 discs. It can have a back disc for the second driver and a front disc for the first driver. The disc is placed into the machine. The driver sets up the requirement as to whether they're driving or resting or what they're doing. Then the tachograph disc gives an accurate, pretty well foolproof record of the driver's hours. You can tell from that, anyone looking at that can see how far the vehicle has been driven by that driver, at what speeds, what brakes has the driver had, and is it all legal. And then those discs were kept and analysed to see whether they were compliant. And a police officer could stop the vehicle and open up the tachograph and look at the records to see if the driver was meeting the rules on resting. That's really what this is about. It's to make sure that people take sufficient rest to be safe while driving. Nowadays the same principles are used, but it's all electronic, much more easy really for the driver to deal with. But at the time that this was going on, which was really from the mid 1970s right the way through into the 2000s, this tachograph was ubiquitous across the motor transport industry, especially buses, coaches and trains.
Thank you.
So this is Leyland Atlantean, and it's not a usual Atlantean. There were lots and lots of Atlanteans built in the 1960s, but this is what's called a PDR1/2 Atlantean, which means it has a drop centre rear axle. Gives you an overall height of 13'6". Very important for King Alfred because there were a lot of low bridges. This is one of 4, delivered in May 1967. They operated in Winchester through the King Alfred takeover until about 1974. And then, because they were usable for one man, they were converted to one-man operation and sent to Swanage and Poole. And they ran there till about 1980. And then the batch was sold to the Bristol Omnibus Company for use in Weston-super-Mare on the seafront, which is a good thing in that it meant that they lasted a long time. Not so good in that they chopped the roofs off. So this bus, 592, was running in Weston-super-Mare with the roof removed, so it had been decapitated deliberately, not under a bridge or anything. It had been sawn off, and it ran up and down Weston-super-Mare seafront, and then in the later 80s it went to Bath and started the open-top bus tours of the city, and eventually it got so old that they decided to replace it, and at that point we were able to step in and take over the vehicle. But we wanted it to have a roof on it. So fortunately we had another one of these, HR 591E, which was very rotten for various reasons. So we decided the best thing to do was to saw the roof off 591 and literally move it across onto this bus. So we parked the 2 buses together, side by side, and when we were ready, we lifted the body top off 591 and walked it across onto this bus, and then reunited it if you like with this vehicle, and what you see now is the result of that marriage, and it looks like the real thing, and indeed it sings like the real things. It has quite a tuneful melodic sound that it makes as it goes along, so very characteristic of King Alfred in its later years. A 76-seater row body, pleasant to look at, and when it drives along the road now, people want to get on it as if it was a modern bus.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, it's just after 5 o'clock on running day, May the 2nd, 2022, and we've finished, thank goodness. More or less, we've managed to do everything we said we were going to do. One or two little incidents and breakdowns, but generally we've managed to make it all happen. And lots of people have come to join us and to enjoy the day. And they've had a lot of fun, and that's what really matters for us. Because this is about enjoying ourselves, but sharing. The great thing about buses is that we can share with lots and lots of people, and that's what we're doing. So it's been a big success. We're very pleased with it. One or two incidents, but overall, wonderful.
Thank you for watching. If you like this video, please click on like and subscribe to my channel. Why not join us and experience in person? As a part of the Winchester Heritage Open Days, on the Saturday the 10th of September, there is a vehicle display at the Winchester Cattle Market car park. And on the Sunday the 11th of September, it is the King Alfred running day from the Winchester Broadway. For more details, please check on the website of Friends of King Alfred Buses in the descriptions. We will see you in the next one.